So this video actually, hold up one second, there we go. This video exists exclusively to promote that Boomer CG Matter now has a TikTok, but before we get to that, let me just throw a quick tutorial at you. Okay, so we're going to be making this chaotic TikTok logo that's completely procedural, and by the way, if you're hearing a bunch of background noise, it's because I'm using my old laptop that CG Matter used to be edited on because I'm over at my mom's house in preparation for my hand surgery. So anyways, I'm going to show you how to make this TikTok logo in a very quick and clever way, so let's begin. I guess, wow, this laptop is surprisingly slow from what I remember. For this, all you really need is to just download an image of what like that music note looks like to begin with, because I guess this used to be like a lame music app, like the little dancing one that, Gen Z used to use. Anyways, take the plane, we're gonna make a material, and this is where we're gonna be driving all the stuff. And then we're also gonna do some location animation. So in the material, just import in this texture. So image texture, I already have mine downloaded. I got it from Google Images. You'd be surprised how easy it is to find any image in the world using Google Images. Look at all those images. Import in your TikTok logo. Make sure it's set to clip so we don't get any repeating along the margins, which is something that happens. And we want this to be a transparent note so that we can then overlay a bunch of different versions, one that's red, one that's teal, etc. So in the material options, before we do anything, blend mode, set it to alpha blend. This makes sure that Eevee can handle our transparency, because otherwise, little beta Eevee, it will crumble to the alpha transparency. Here's what we do now. What we want to do is we want to add in a transparent BSDF whenever you want transparency. Either use alpha or transparent BSDF. Alpha from the principled BSDF node. We're going to mix this together. So we are going to mix shader. So we are mixing both the color of this image with the transparent BSDF. I think we want it the other way around. But how do we tell Blender? Right now it's mixing them both 50-50. So we could either have it be fully transparent or fully the music note. But how do we selectively make it the black transparent and everything else opaque? The way we do that is we need a mask, but luckily for us, we already have a mask right here. Again, this image is white wherever we want the image to show up and black wherever we want transparency. So you take this, you plug it in, and there you go, that should work. So again, this factor tells us make the background transparent and the rest of it a music note. I like to add an axis so I don't get confused. Now, all we have to do is make a couple variations of this. I'm just duplicating, that's Shift D, and just bringing a version downwards. I guess it doesn't have to be so downwards. And for this one, let's make a new material. So now these are unlinked materials. We could have them do different things. And for this one, I'm going to mix RGB so we can change the color of it selectively. We're going to use a factor of 1, and now we can pick the color of this. We are basically saying, take the color and mix it together with this new one. So I think it's this kind of reddish pink thing, not entirely sure. And let's also add an emission shader so that it glows. We'll be able to see that soon when we enable Bloom in Eevee. Actually, let's do that right now. World, set that to black. Hopefully this laptop isn't too chaotic. I know it's humming, but it shouldn't be too bad. We do that. We also set the render mode to bloom in the render tab so that, when we do this, it's actually showing up. I'm going to set it to 3 or something like this. And then let's also make another version. Actually, I guess before we make the other version, we could have this one animate and move so that we have less work to do. Okay. From the top view, you're not going to see, other than the glow, you're not going to see it at all, right? Because the note is literally exactly hidden under it. So we want it to flicker and animate and all this, and we could, do that manually, or instead we could use procedural graph stuff. So to add in a location keyframe, this is so that we can access this stuff in the graph editor. So if we open up the graph editor, you see now our plane object has XYZ location. That's because we added a keyframe. If we were to add in a rotation keyframe, we're also going to get that information. We only need location. I just want to have the XY, like on this floor plane. I want that to flick around. Fast way to do this is you want to add in a modifier. So N to open that up. Modifiers, add in a noise modifier. And now we should be procedurally animating the X location. As you can see, that's the flickering. But we want to kind of control this a bit more. So first of all, I want it to be a slower flickering. So I'm going to set this to 3, so it's kind of 3 times as slow. But I also want the amplitude or the strength to be lower. So we, make it a quarter as strong, so now it's not as intense. And maybe something to do is increase the depth by 1. Let me see if I can visualize this for you. Basically, this is the X location mapped from this value to the actual X location. I'm gonna add a bit of depth. This just adds a bit of sharpness and makes it feel a bit more chaotic. And now what we do is we copy this modifier, go to Y, paste it, and now we've done it for both. And by the way, just set the phase or the offset to something different, just so they're independent from each other. So now we have this music note, it's chaotic and stuff, and let's do the same fucking thing for the other one. So take it, duplicate it on the Z-axis, we're gonna bring this one down, and for this one we're gonna unlink the material again, so now we have 3 materials. This one's gonna be like a teal, but generally the situation is gonna be the same. One thing you're gonna notice is, yes, they both animate, but they animate together because I've literally copied over everything about it, including this graph stuff. So again, just randomize it with a bit of offset on both of these. Whoops, on X as well. And now they should be moving independently from each other. And just a quick little trick to add in a bit of spice, take one of these planes, move it down a bit, take another one, and make sure it's the second one, yeah, and move it up a bit. And the idea about this is, yes, they're still gonna be randomly moving, but on average, whoops, I guess we gotta do it on the keyframe, because remember, we added a keyframe on frame 1. So do it again, add in a location keyframe, so now it actually stays there. There we go. And for the second plane, do the same thing. Actually, make sure you're on the first frame to do this. I'm doing it so slow because I gotta do it one-handed, BT dubs. But the reason we do this is now they average, I mean, they're still random motion, but on average, they stick to a particular area so that there's a bit more separation, although this one could be moved a bit closer. But I just want like one of them to occupy a certain area on average more frequently and the other one to occupy another. But this is how you do the main TikTok logo. To make it more intense, you go to the bloom, you lower the threshold. There you go. And now it's gonna glow a bit more. You wanna just set your camera above here to render, and there you go. Now to promote my TikTok, boys. Moving on. Okay, we made it. So yeah, I made a TikTok, and the clips you can expect to see there are just tiny VFX things that I'm already making on the CG Matter channel. They already happen to be under a minute, and I thought, let me just show you a sample of the kind of stuff I'm making. There's a link in the description if you're interested, because now I'm a TikTok boy. Check these out. Hulu, you made me a promise. Attack on Titan at 3:45. So you know what happens, Hulu, when you screw over a guy like this? You go into the trash can, okay? That means a canceled subscription. So trash can, Hulu, observe. We open the trash can, and you lose the business. Don't fuck with my Attack on Titan. Thanks. I made a video pretending that I coded Blender for Game Boy, but here's how I actually made it. First thing I had to do was make the Game Boy UI, so I just opened up Blender and started snagging viewport screenshots, some icons, a menu bar, and of course a animated timeline, which I softly threw together into something, you know, kind of believable. And since this is really just a bunch of nodes, whenever I clicked the button on the good old GB, I could just animate the UI to respond accordingly. And pro tip, what really sells this effect is adding in those tiny details like the icon flickering or the border color changing when you select delete, or, you know, maybe making the power indicator glow green, which I totally forgot to do, but whatever. We've made some UI to slap onto screen, so, you know, ruin that Game Boy with those tracker markers, planar track that footage, render out the corner pinned UI, and overlay with something like soft light so we still get those reflections. But wait, those tracker markers, you know, they're still there. Okay, fine. Let's use those tracks from before to this time get a 3D solve that moves with our screen so that we can extract the area, hide the dots, reproject the footage, bring that into the composite, and voila, believable Blender in Game Boy, which I ruined with the stupid 3D effect for some reason.